Hey there, I'm Dan Martell, serial entrepreneur, investor, and creator of SaaS Academy. And in this video, I'm going to share with you a strategy for measuring the value of a stage. If you're thinking of doing some speaking, you're a founder, you're getting asked to speak all over the world, or just in your local community, and you're wondering, should I invest my time and energy in doing that? In this video, I'm going to share with you guys the math, the strategy, the way to think about it, so that you can get the most use of your time or the most value from your time speaking. And be sure to stay to the end where I'm going to share with you how to get access to my precision scorecard framework, which is going to help you track and monitor and hit your targets, not only in your business, but even monetizing your stages. So when I say stages, I mean physical stages and digital stages, okay? So anytime you get an opportunity to speak in front of a room, that is a stage. Now, I get all of this strategy, the concept of an SVI, a lot of the strategies I use to collect leads from the room, et cetera, from my buddy Pete Vargas. So if you're interested in learning more how to use speaking as a way to monetize your time, go Google Pete Vargas. He's the world's best. He does this on a level I can't even describe. And a lot of the concepts I'm going to share with you are 100% conversations I've had with Pete. But recently I had two clients, Kyle and Annabelle, reach out asking me about how I decide what events I speak at and which ones I say no to. And really try to understand how they can justify that time being away from their company, their startup, to their co-founders, and still add a lot of value to their business. Because I know in the early days, I felt like, yes, I was getting a lot of practice. I wanted to share my story. I wanted to share the content. I wanted to add value. But you got to ask yourself, is this really moving my business forward? And I would say for like 4 years of speaking, I don't think I really had a strategy until I got frustrated. I learned this from Pete, and now I quantify everything so I can understand not only the events I do today, are they valuable, but should I redo them next year if I have the opportunity to speak again? So that's what we're going to cover in this video. Number one, the goal of the stage. So before you say yes to getting on a podcast or a speaking engagement or even doing a webinar, you got to ask yourself, what's the goal or the expectation of that outcome? I mean, I know that sometimes you feel compelled to just want to give, but you also got to ask yourself, what's the value of your time? So before I ever say yes, I'm always asking about the size of the audience. If it's a new, if it's an existing thing, how many people attended last year, the makeup of the audience, so I know if my ideal customer is going to be part of that makeup, and really just kind of set some personal goals as like, what kind of outcome do you want to achieve from either monetization or lead gen from that speaking engagement? Because if you're going to invest the time, you need to make sure that it gets the results that you're looking for. The other thing I'm going to suggest is, from a goal point of view, is make a list of some dream stages, ideally 4. Think about this. What are the 4 dream stages, digital or physical, that you could set as a vision for someday getting invited or applying to speak on those stages, that you knew if you had the opportunity to share your message, share your content, that it would drive your business forward in an extremely meaningful way? Those are dream stages, but first you got to set the goal. Number 2, capture leads. If you're going to invest time traveling or block out some time in your calendar to prep and then do a podcast interview or webinar, you want to make sure that at the end of that webinar, throughout that webinar conversation, that you're creating opportunities to capture the audience into your world. So the easiest way, and this is what I do, is I have a valuable piece of content, some kind of framework, etc. Just like in this video, the precision scorecard is an example. So if you want to see kind of the things that I give away when I talk, you can go check that out. But it's something where I teach and I say, hey, I've got this handout, this worksheet. If you want to get a copy of it, click the link and download it. And all I do is I set a unique link based on the event I'm at. So if I'm speaking at SaaS Talk, it's danmartell.com/SaaS Talk. And then that way there's a bit of tracking. It's super easy. Same thing with podcasts. It's always the URL, the URL turns into the name of the podcast you're on. That way you can set some tracking and know how many people from that audience resonated with your message and decided to download the thing that you built. And that to me is a must, right? My buddy Pete would tell you, you need to do a card on the seats and handouts and get them to fill it out. It's an interest card. He's next level at this, but to me, I want to get on stage. I just want to teach. I want to add a lot of value, and I want to give everybody the opportunity to essentially download some more content to help them with that, and also get on my email list so we can continue the conversation. Number 3, conversion tool. So no matter what kind of speaking you're doing, whatever you're selling, software, etc., there needs to be some kind of process to essentially get somebody to become a customer. And now this doesn't mean there's any hard pitch. You're not calling up, you're not sending it to your sales team and they're like being aggressive. It's some kind of funnel. So for me, it's a conversation with one of our scale specialists. And it's really simple. At the end of the day, if they download your lead magnet, you can have on the thank you page a prompt that says, hey, you just downloaded this thing. Sounds like you have this problem. Do you want to talk about it and get, some insights and some advice on how you might be able to move faster and overcome that challenge? And it's book in our calendar. It can be literally that simple. So think about it this way. Every time you speak, you add a ton of value. You transform people's lives. To me, I think it's an honor and a real privilege to have the opportunity to speak. I think if you're going to get on a stage, digital or physical, and your intention is not to transform lives, you should give up your spot and give it to somebody else, because it is an incredible privilege to be able to do that, and that should be the outcome. So as soon as you do that, you have the opportunity to connect with your audience, you capture their email address, and then on the next page, you say, hey, do you want to have a conversation? Do you want to try our software? So whatever your conversion tool, usually there's 3. Free trial as a conversion tool, so sign up for a free trial. 2 is get a demo. And 3rd is let's talk about deploying a proof of concept. That's more for an enterprise sale. But you want to have a conversion tool set up on the back end of the lead capture process so that you can actually have a funnel and a pipeline to monetize that audience. Number 4. Measure SVI. So SVI stands for Stage Value Index. So here's the simple math. If I go speak to 100 people, I get 10 opportunities that essentially maybe I might get 20 people that download the thing. 10 of them decide to book in for a call with a scale specialist, and let's say half of those people decide to move forward. All of a sudden now I have and you usually want to do it in some kind of timeline, maybe within the next 90 days from you speaking at that event. You obviously track it. What was the monetization? What was the revenue directly attributed to that event? Obviously, there's going to have people that see you speak, refer folks. It's kind of like off tracking. Totally fine. You don't have to take that into consideration. If you know it's about 10% or 15% more than what you can directly track, great. Put that in your numbers. It doesn't really matter, other than you want to rank your stages. So being able to say, hey, I did these 15 podcasts last year, and the monetization for those podcasts were ranked this way. And these 2, which may not be the most notable, which may not have the biggest audience, generated the most opportunity for your SaaS, for your product. I mean, that to me is really cool. Being able to make that decision for, in a couple of years on a podcast saying, hey, I'd really like to do your podcast again. Or, speaking on a stage, especially if you've got to travel international, or you got to be away from your family for 2 or 3 days, be away from your team. Those are big commitments. Being able to quantify the value of a stage, to me, is how we get more deliberate and strategic about speaking, so that it doesn't feel like you're sacrificing your business, because that's usually the concern. That's why my coaching clients reach out to me and ask me about this. And 2, you're able to really start to optimize and say, okay, well, audiences that look like this seem to have the best results for the story and the message that I'm sharing. How do I do that? And it really gives you a feedback loop for you to be a better speaker, right? Because what I know is that, if we're better at connecting and sharing and being authentic and really adding a lot of value, that when we go to say hey, I got this thing to help you move faster, your lead capture, they're going to fill it out. They're going to download it, because they can't believe the amount of value you just shared in 25, 45-minute keynote. So that to me is why it's so important to actually measure the stage value as an index and rank order it, to be able to help you not only get better, but also decide which ones you do again in the future. Number 5, look for leverage. So one of the things that I'm always asking myself is, how do I get more out of my day? Literally, it's time blocking, it's scheduling, it's evaluating, is this an F yeah? And for me, speaking is awesome. I love, if you ever see me at an event, I love talking to people. I usually stick around for the whole event. But recently I was really inspired to do an interview show, my new Escape Velocity show. And one of the things we realized is if I had to fly around to, interview all these incredible founders, it would probably be a no-go, right? I've a young family, I've got existing commitments, I've got other business opportunities. I can't add that much more travel to my schedule. And what we realized as a team was, hey, Dan, well, you're already at an event. Why don't we just set up a interview spot in one of the green rooms or a separate room, and you could leverage the time being at that event to also invite speakers that you want to connect with that have already flown in, that are there to do the Escape Velocity show. And that is how it works. So if you look at the episodes, even though we shoot them live on video and audio on the podcast, they are all shot in different locations. So they're kind of done in batches, and then we release them every 2 weeks. And they're done at every speaking event that I go and speak at. And now it's gotten to the point where we're already booked into next year, where organizers want us to come, because not only do they want me to speak on their stage, they want us to have the Escape Velocity show on location to add even more value to the other speakers. And I think that is just a really neat way to ask yourself, like, okay, if I'm going to speak, yes, I want to make sure there's an audience for my product so that I'm getting the benefit from a business point of view. But there's also things like, business development opportunities that you can optimize. There's customers in those cities that you could be reaching out and connecting with and trying to get leverage from it. There's other speakers that could be potential advisors or folks that could introduce you to investors for your next round of funding. So there's a lot of other things, but you have to look at it from a leverage point of view. You got to be strategic. You actually got to put a little bit of time in before you show up so that you can get the most out of that event. So real quick recap, how to measure the value of your stage using the SVI formula. Number one, you have to set some goals for your stages, especially some dream stages. Number two, capture leads. Number three, conversion tool, understand where you're sending those leads after to monetize. 4, measure your SVI, your stage value index. Number 5, look for leverage. In my case, it's the Escape Velocity show. For you, it could be biz dev, customer meetings, or other speakers you want to connect with. As I mentioned at the beginning of this episode, I want to share with you my precision scorecard. It's not only a worksheet, but it's a process to set goals, set the targets, monitor the actuals, and check in with your team in all areas of the business on a weekly basis. So it's a great place where you would put your stage value index number if you're doing a lot of speaking, so the rest of the team can understand how that has had an impact on the business. You can click the link below to download a copy of that process and strategy and implement it into your business. If you're doing a weekly sync or a weekly meeting every week, you need a scorecard. This is how you put that scorecard together. If you like this video, I would love a like. Please leave a comment. Let me know what aspect of this show or any other shows that you really appreciate. I'm always looking for feedback. And if there's somebody that you care about that you think this could serve, feel free to share this video directly with them. As per usual, I want to challenge you to live a bigger life and a bigger business, and I'll see you next Monday. It is what is it?